Like I was a wreck and I needed to do something. I reached out to a friend. She was someone who, I thought I could trust in these matters. And yeah, she took me to this ceremony. No one prepared me for it. No one told me anything about it. I basically walked into a situation, something that I had no idea about, just trusting a friend and not fully grasping the importance of what was about to happen during the ceremony. This As I was puking, this snake appeared right in front of me. And the snake said, I'm gonna fuck you up. I was overtaken by these horrific voices, feelings, like thoughts. I was hearing things. I was having crazy dreams, and those voices did not belong to me. Like they really weren't me. And I was shocked and terrified all the way, like all the time. I cannot describe the amount of mental anguish one feels when you know you're going crazy, like you're losing your mind, but you're also aware and you can't stop it and you don't know what to do. I'd never been even close to that state. I don't think I had experienced real anxiety before.
So, hello and welcome back to our podcast, Ayahuasca Avatars. And I'm so happy today to be here with Hande. And she has this incredible story, you guys, to tell. So, stay with us and listen to this because there's so many gems and learnings, and it's a real hero's journey. So I'm excited and thank you for be willing and open to share your story because I think a lot of people will be helped by it and inspired by it. So yeah, thank you for that and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Nina. Thanks for having me. I'm excited, a little bit nervous, but I feel like it's kind of time to share a little bit about this. So,
Yes, we met more than a year ago, and when you found me and came to me and we had a consultation, you were in a pretty challenging situation yourself. So let's just start with the beginnings and like what happened leading up to that point and what was the situation that you found yourself in?
where do I start? How many years do I go back? Yeah, so I went to an ayahuasca ceremony in 2022 in Istanbul, Turkey, where I'm originally from. Yeah, I wasn't in a good place. About a year before that, in 2021, my mom had a brain aneurysm suddenly during in the thick of COVID. She got sick and she had to have an operation. I had to fly out. It was a very challenging, stressful time for our family, and she recovered. Thankfully, I came back to where I live in New York, to New York, and then I got hit by a huge immigration issue. I mean, actually, right after becoming a citizen, I couldn't leave the country. There was some kind of a mix-up, and so I was stuck for 8 months, unable to go back to my country, to my mom, and to my family. And during that time, like work was very challenging. It's still COVID, it's still crazy, and I found out that my dog had cancer. So I find myself finally in Turkey with a cancer diagnosis for my dog. My mom just recently recovered from either paralysis or certain death. So I was really like, I was a wreck and I needed to do something. I reached out to a friend. She was someone who, I thought I could trust in these matters. And she said they'd been doing ayahuasca regularly for a few months. And yeah, she took me to this ceremony. I was very happy. I thought, I was doing something very good for myself, for my healing. And the ceremony wasn't all bad, but I had basically no container. I had no idea what it was supposed to be like. No one prepared me for it. No one told me anything about it. I basically walked into a situation, something that I had no idea about, just, trusting a friend and not fully grasping the importance of, what was about to happen.
Thank you for pointing that out, because I think that's already a lot of people can relate to. So a lot of people find themselves in these situations that I have a trusted friend and I trust that friend, with all my heart, my mind, so much that I don't do any investigation myself. I just trust that person. And yeah, a lot of people have this experience that, oh, we had no idea what we are walking into. And sometimes the people who we trust, they don't know either, so it's not that they want to lie to us or mislead us or harm us in any way. It's just, but we have no idea, right? We are just trusting them. And yeah, it's I think it's a good message to people that before you go to ceremony, you just do some research and take some time and do a proper preparation and everything to make sure this is not something that you kind of, oh, that's a great idea, let's go for it tonight. And in the moment it seemed like a good idea because you were so under so much pressure and you were looking for something, a way out, and this came to you and you were like, wow, then probably this is it, right?
Right. Yeah, totally. That was what was happening. And exactly, like, there was someone who was facilitating. He wasn't a shaman. He wasn't calling himself a shaman. He was a, guy, just a guy a few years older than us, and have no idea how he acquired the, medicine, how he got training, like nothing. Like I did the dieta for a few days, and I was told to do it, and then I was in the ceremony. And during the ceremony, what happened was, I was puking at some point, and it was pretty, like sudden and tough, and I had to go to the bathroom. I turned down the lights, and I didn't, because I know I wasn't supposed to, but I did it because I couldn't see anything. And this as I was puking, this snake appeared right in front of me. And the snake said, I'm gonna fuck you up. And in English, I just felt gut punched because before that it wasn't it was very actually peaceful and empowering. When that happened, I started feeling yeah, so bad, and yeah, just betrayed, wronged. It just became this really scary thing for me. I also took another shot of the medicine a few, maybe hours later, I don't even know. I was told something about myself that I had no idea about. I never thought could possibly be true. And I don't want to really disclose it, but it was like so, opposite to how I felt all my life. And it was very jarring. And so the, ceremony ended in a weird note where I was like, oh, this seemed like, all fun and games and rainbows and happiness in the beginning, and then something wacky happening in the middle. And then I was out, and I was, of course, like in a kind of a daze for a few days. I didn't seek out any help or explanation. Nobody talked about anything. There was absolute zero attempt at integration. It was as if, now now you've done it. So I came out of it totally, going in unprepared, coming out unprepared, not knowing what to do with this. I wasn't in therapy, and I was depressed and spiraling without actually understanding that. The earthquake in Turkey happened. I think that's a real turning point in my life, where I completely lost trust in, like, the fabric of my life kind of like crumbled. Even though I wasn't in the earthquake zone, it was just such a huge tragedy and loss of life. And and it was just something that completely unraveled me and like left me without faith, complete distrust of this reality, this universe, our life, whatever is in my life, in like personally. Then I came back to New York struggling. I'm like trying to, like sort out my life after having left it when my dog was sick. I kind of began a little dissociating, I think, from all the stress, and it was a very weird feeling that I wasn't used to. And I was having a conversation with my roommate. During that conversation, something happened to me. Something was happening to my brain. Something's going on in my brain. Like I can't stop my thought. There's actually nothing, no, reason to feel any kind of panic or anything. Like it's not the same feeling, anything that I'd experienced before. It just felt like my brain was doing like, somersaults and going all places, and I completely felt like something was happening to me, and I couldn't, like make anything of it. Then within a few days, weeks, I mean, it's all a days at those points. I was overtaken by these horrific voices, feelings, like thoughts. I was hearing things. I was having crazy dreams, and those voices did not belong to me. Like they really weren't me, and I was shocked and terrified all the way, like all the time. People thought I was normal, and I was just sitting there with them, and there was these things going on through my mind, and I was just terrified, like, 100% of the time. That I cannot describe the amount of mental anguish one feels when you're going crazy, like you're losing your mind, but you're also aware and you can't stop it, and you don't know what to do, because if you speak out, if tell someone, like, well, how are they going to react? And I wasn't getting any sleep. An hour and a half of sleep every night, and like crazy voices, crazy, yeah, just crazy dreams, being terrified all the time. Like I didn't know what to do with myself. I lost 4 or 5 pounds in like a week, 2 weeks. I wasn't eating anything. Yeah, I was a mess. I'd never been in that state. I'd never been even close to that state. I don't think I had experienced real anxiety before. Like what happened was I was feeling a lot of the things that the ayahuasca, that within the trip, I was told within the trip, and they kept coming to me like intrusive thoughts, like during the day. I couldn't escape them, and I was like, brain is sick, like my mind is sick, my it's making my body sick, and this has to do with something with ayahuasca. And if I go to a normal, psychiatric hospital or whatever, they're gonna lock me up, maybe, which was what I needed. Maybe it would have been fine. I really don't know. But I mean, they weren't gonna treat me the way you did, for sure. So I Googled, ayahuasca integration. I was like, what is integration? No one told me about this thing that did it exist and all that. And we need a professional. We need someone to hold our hands during that disintegration and then the integration process. So I found you somehow, and then you were like, let's just meet immediately. And yeah, you saw me in that state. Yeah, I was desperate and also like terrified out of my mind.
I remember, that session very well. Like, I mean, you were clearly in a state of shock when we met, and you were super emotionally overwhelmed. You were crying, most of the time and stuff like that, and just really at the very, very edge of sanity. Thank you for sharing all this. And yeah, I don't think people need the exact details, what was the particular story that you were struggling with, but a couple of things that I want to say is, first of all, the details that you gave me around the ceremony and how it was held and who held the medicine and how they sourced the medicine. When I was talking to you, I was already aware that this was a very unsafe place, and there was no preparation, and there was no responsible people who knew really what they were doing. So once I was talking to you, I assumed, that this is part of the reason why you are not feeling well, because that's what we call a bad trip. The only bad trip is when you are not in a safe place, and some energies, some kind of entities, whatever people want to call it, intrusive entities, can come into that space, and people who are holding this space, they are either not aware that this is happening, or they cannot resolve it, they cannot clear it. Either way, it's the responsibility of the people who are holding the ceremonial space to make sure that these type of energies are kept away or cleared, when they occur, and this was not happening. And so that was like already like a red flag, right, when you were sharing your story. And then the second thing is what you mentioned, that you heard this voice, there was the snake, and there was this voice, and it says, I'm gonna fuck you up, and that changed the whole feeling and the whole experience for you. And that's when the terror really started, and that the kind of that dark journey. When you told this to me, I knew immediately that this is not the voice of the medicine. This is not the spirit of the medicine. What happens sometimes that people the first time, right, you cannot discern, right? Something is coming to you, something is talking to you, something is presenting itself to you, and we assume this is the medicine, this is the spirit of the medicine, this is the ayahuasca or whatever, and it's not necessarily, but when we don't have previous experience, it's hard to say because you have nothing to compare it to, right? But for me, based on my experience for over a decade and working with many people, I knew with great certainty that this was very, very likely not the voice of the medicine. This was an intrusive entity. And I tell you why, because when you receive messages through the spirit of the medicine, from your higher self, from kind of, higher places, it can be sometimes, a little bit hard to face, those messages, but you still feel some kind of relief. And even though maybe it's not comfortable, you still like, yeah, that makes sense. I kind of somewhere knew that, and that's okay. But it's a completely different situation when you receive some kind of message that terrifies you and starts to pull you into despair. Right. That's a kind of completely different ball game. And that was another thing, that was a red flag, like, first of all, this particular message and how it was presented to you. And then, after the experience, your experience was not of healing and empowerment and, what kind of we're expecting when you are on this journey, but it was completely the opposite. You just kept spiraling out and you were going deeper into that despair and into that terror. And that's also a big warning sign that something is not working as it should be, and there is something that we need to look at here, because this is not a healing experience. This is quite the opposite of a healing experience, right? And I would love if you would just share a little bit about, because there was this kind of voice or this, energy who told you this information that was truly disturbing. And then that voice stayed with you, correct? So after you kept hearing that and that voice kept magnifying, like, can you tell a little bit about the experience so people can kind of understand what is that experience when there is something and you kind of, how feel it, from
it didn't stay with me this whole time, this whole year, because I came to you a year after the ceremony, right? During that year, things happened to me and I was stressed and unhappy, but I wasn't this bad. Like, like I was still in my normal mental state. Yeah, I was. And when I kind of like, when the bottom fell out, like life became so complicated and that thing happened in my brain, I was taken over. I don't know how else to describe it. I don't know. Like, I know, like, possession is a kind of a, I don't know how to believe it, but that's how it exactly felt. And this voice was mean, very mean to me. It was as if like my mind had turned on itself and was torturing me on purpose every second of my life. Like I was, like I was raising my left hand and it was telling me, it's not your hand. You're not who you are. Like it was completely unhinged and turned against me. And that was the scariest thing. I can't even explain how scary and yeah, just terror. It's not like it's not like an anxious intuition. Is it anxiety or is it like, it was super loud, super uh clearly mean and very demanding. Let's put it that way. And
Yes,
so,
these are such good characteristics that you describe, to people, definitely feeling of possessed, feeling of this is something either outside of me, or it doesn't feel that it fully belongs to you, or it is coming from inside of you. It feels like an intrusion. It feels like something has power over you and you are in the grip of something, right? You are kind of
right.
possessed in a way. And that other characteristic that you mentioned, that turning against yourself,
Yeah.
self-destruction,
Yeah.
that healing, that's the opposite of healing. Self-destruct, that's if you are in this kind of situation and you're listening, reach out for help immediately, because that has nothing to do with healing. In healing, we go through crisis, we go through dark night of the soul, but it's not like this, it's not. And then, you said unhinged, completely lost, that you feel completely disempowered, right, and confused, of what to do. So yeah, this was the situation that affected your life to the extent of not being able to live a normal life and eat and rest and work properly, right? Since this is a pretty serious situation, it's not something like, oh, I
Wow.
don't I have had a bad day kind of scenario. So when we had that first consultation, like, do you remember, what went down and how did you feel afterwards?
I can't tell you, like I was still, very, very disturbed, but the second you told me we can fix this, this is a ceremony that, was not done properly, and I will help you. I can't, I'm gonna cry. I can't describe the feeling that, someone, yeah, in that state. That's all I wanted to hear. I knew it wasn't going to be easy because it was like I'd never experienced anything like this before. I knew that this wasn't a switch that I could just turn, somebody could turn on and off, but I knew it was going to be challenging. But that's why I guess I sought you out because, yeah, I wanted someone to tell me, like, these things might happen in these ceremonies or whatever, like I knew it was ayahuasca related for sure. It was a big relief, but it didn't stop me, like I couldn't go to sleep. Still my psyche was, I think, too disturbed.
Yeah, you were in shock. What was the first thing that we did, like I told you to go to? Do you remember?
Sure, Keziah, you gave me the contact details of she's a shaman, right? She's a shaman that helps people like me, and I immediately like booked a session. And by the way, yes, these really do seem like improbable things, like, like it's not making full sense to a part of my brain, but I was at the same time like I was going through something that was so improbable to me, having been my whole life the, the voice of reason, like someone who is always very grounded, even though dabbling in spirituality and mental health for the past decade or so. I had never seen anyone or come remotely close to anything, an experience like this. So I did book a session with Keziah, and Keziah was very nice. And I think it was like during that session, and afterwards, I could feel a little bit, just a tiny bit, like normalcy, tiny bit. But and then I had hope. I was like, oh my God, I am coming down, like, from this thing. And she helped me kind of like calm down my nervous system with her own presence as well. So yeah, that was
That
like,
was, that was so important, I think, right? And that's the first step, and just giving people, also the hope and the information that this, can be remedied, this kind of situation. There is ways to deal with this, but yeah, not the allopathic Western medicine way, because they don't know what is really that they are dealing with.
Right.
But yeah, that's what shamans and shamanic practitioners do. And yeah, I do work with this beautiful lady who have many people, and these clearings can be done through long distance. They don't have to be physically present because we are talking about like invisible energetic things, right? And oftentimes what happens is when these intrusive energies are removed and cleared from the space, there is a shift of energy and people start to experience improvement and feeling better slowly. This is how your experience was.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it was the like the, a tiny step because as we know, like this takes a lot of time. There's a lot of kind of damage to your idea of reality. And it like, like you can't just recover from it. It's like a horrible nightmare that you stay in for months, like, So, but it was definitely a big first step. And I was like, there is hope. There's people that believe me. There's people that think like me and are willing to help me. And our journey together began, like my path towards healing.
And we talked about it at the very beginning that this was a case of spiritual emergency and the true what we call possession, or intrusion by an energetic entity. And this can be removed in 1 or 2 sessions. It's not a big deal to remove it, but as you said, the damage that was done, that has to be restored, and that takes some time. And also we talked about it that even though this was not your fault, so to say, that you ended up in this experience, but you had some kind of vulnerability to begin with that allowed this to happen, this
Right.
energy to connect to you and to kind of wreak havoc in your life, so to say. And that's the deeper work that needs to be done, is to see what was the original vulnerability that magnetized and called in, and to deal with that, and so we can protect you for the
Right.
future, right? And prevent something like this to happen again. So that's what we started out, right? Like to investigate what is really happened, like what were some steps that you remember that, okay, like these were some kind of milestones in the journey.
I think in the beginning, I was just, of course, depressed. Like, at that point in my life, there's a lot of things that happened. I had to do a lot of emotional processing that I wasn't able to do. And then this happened. I thought I was getting to the emotional processing, and then I was hit by this immense monster of a thing that I had no idea where to begin processing. And so I was feeling very wronged, and I was crying in every session. I was crying so much, and I just was I wanted to believe you so badly, but at the same time it was very hard. It was my life was every moment was hard, let me put it that way. It took an like impossible amount of strength and goodwill to move on to the next moment. I was really, I wanted to die. I'm sorry, like disclaimer, but like for, suicide. Yeah, I just could not deal with the sheer experience of it all, like so much ups and downs and so much mental anguish. So and I thought like, what is my vulnerability? But I couldn't even get there because I think I was yeah, the scar was too, the wound was too fresh. Little by little, I of course the journaling helps. Yeah, let's talk about the journaling. That's a major mark and something that is definitely useful in things like this. It was hell. It was the darkest year of my life, and I have the journals to kind of, prove it and to remember.
I think that's a good tool, as you said, because once you put it down on the paper, you start to see the absolute craziness of it, right? And that was something big that we started working on. How do you discern
Right.
what is true, what is not, which voices are real, what to listen to, what to focus on, because you were in a space of, you were so lost and confused and was like, overwhelmed in that moment, that there was all these messages, all these voices, all these thoughts coming in that were just so distressing, right? So the first thing we said, okay, like who you are not, where is
Right.
this voice coming from? Is this good for you? Like just to kind of try to organize a little bit, right? Right.
Totally.
And it took a lot of time, and journaling helped that, because sometimes we write something down and we see and we say, okay, this is not who I am. This is not, my best part of me.
No, no, and I think one of the things that was big was you made me write down like these were these 4 steps. It was like discernment, does this belong to me? Is this helping me? Is this making me feel better? Is this moving me towards the light? I can't remember the steps now, but I was like remembering that all the time and thinking about like I am like, is this me? Is this the voice? Is this still thing? It was so confusing. I think, if I heard someone else talk about this like this, I would like, I don't know if I could relate before, because how do you not know who you are? How do you not know your own thoughts? Like, what does that even mean? And I am telling you, it happened to me. It happened to me. And there were moments where your voice was kind of my anchor rather than my own voice, which is so weird but so valuable, because I have to keep kind of like an alignment with my normal self, which I wasn't able to. It was fluctuating, and there you were like, is this true? Is this right? Is this correct for you? And I was like, okay, Nina, I will take your advice and redirect myself. Yeah. So that was, I think, the
Then
trust.
we realize, right, that there is other voices and other parts of us, and that was big part of the journey, that there is the light and the shadow, and it's within us also. It's everywhere, this duality, and predators exist, right? All of these
Right.
things, and if we are that kind of experience, when you are in that childlike naivete, I think that you mentioned earlier that nothing bad can happen to me, everything is love and light, I am like a spiritual, powerful being, whatever.
Goddess. Yeah.
Then you are in some form of denial of that shadow aspect, and that's when you are more vulnerable to that, right? And you got a big taste of that, right, through this experience of like, just be careful what you think, what you believe in, and we need to stay grounded in ourselves, and anchored in our
Yeah.
in our center. Otherwise, we can be easily lost, somewhere where we do not want to be, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's what we always talk about, the shadow being the opposite side of you, kind of, but it's usually, I mean, you hear it but you kind of dismiss it, or you don't even hear it, or you don't even see it. With me, this was amplified to the max, and it took over, and it was the scariest thing. But then, there was glimmers of hope throughout. I think, I as I kind of followed kind of a strict regimen of like, journaling, doing things that really, help me, like staying away from whatever is hurting me, and like keeping my distance, and trying not to focus and obsess over it, which is very hard when you're going through like this. I think part of it is it becomes an obsession, and it takes you down, like this spirals you down. But then it's slowly, I mean, yeah, it's taken a year, and it's unbelievable. It's a short time on a, bigger scheme of things, but actually it's a very long time when you're going through some mental, health issue like this.
And how do you feel like now, like today? How is your life compared to that 1 year ago, you know?
Completely opposite, like light and dark. Yeah, like night and day. And I think, of course, I've learned so much about how my mind work, or how our minds work, and the traps, and the good sides and everything, and the importance of being in balance. But I feel like I'm trying to, my goal was to go back to a time where before all of this started, because I thought I was, doing really well, before, the ayahuasca ceremony, but at least a year before the ayahuasca ceremony. But now I'm understanding that I am, I'm seeing different sides of myself. Like it's more whole. I'm still as a maybe a mentally, balanced, and I more resilient. But I am, yeah, I mean, I have to say I'm in a better place because of this. Like, despite everything that it brought on, it just gave me a lot more tools and a lot more understanding about human nature, and my own and everyone else's. And but it's been scary.
Do you feel more empowered now that you went through this and you kind of came back, like on?
Yeah, very. But I'm trying to keep that in check as well, because I think part of it was a little bit of arrogance and recklessness too. Like arrogance in the sense that, like, oh yeah, everything's love and light and nothing will happen to me because I'm good, and I'm strong and I'm resilient and I can take it and I can take everything. But that becomes like you're like a bucket, of
You're kind of inviting things when you say that, right?
yeah. And I was in a, I was, because of all the trauma that changes your perception, like the more you get exposed to crazy things and crazy, other psyches, like get in touch with other craziness in the world. And there's a lot right now in the world. I think I just became like, everything is welcome. Everyone is welcome. I have, I'm going to spend my energy on whoever comes my way, whoever, crosses my path crosses with. It is something that we always talked about, discernment. And so I'm like much more careful with my energy. I'm much more, yeah, I don't want to lose my, attributes, like my, like a giving, holding space for people, loving, being a loving being. But at the same time, I'm wiser.
Oh, that's so well said. Definitely, it's just we want to be, that giving and open, but not to everything, open to everything. Not here, maybe on other realms, higher realms, it's all cool, but not here. And that, that extreme empathy and that lack of boundaries, and taking the world suffering on our shoulders and believing that we are invincible in some way is definitely, inviting, in some way, this kind of experiences. And also, the other side of it, when you feel that, okay, I'm just, I had enough. I don't know how to deal. I just wanted to be out. I don't care about life. I don't care about myself. So this kind of not caring anymore and just whatever, that's also another way of, like kind of being open and vulnerable to whatever is lurking out there, right? And then, another thing that we talked about was the isolation and not asking for help. And you were so long alone because you were afraid, you were ashamed, you were like not knowing where to go for help. You were trying to do it on your own, and then that made it worse. If you would have come before, probably it would have been a little bit easier, right? So that's also a lot of people experience that. So if you're listening, like, reach out. If you're feeling this way, reach out for help. That's the best that you can do, and then not dealing with things
Right.
or reality, right? And rejecting that's also kind of, makes us vulnerable. So it's kind of like that we have these blind spots, these naivete, the wounded child, the victim in us, the one who doesn't care, and all of this. And these parts take over when we give over the reins and say, I don't care about my life anymore. Then it's like giving your power to whoever is willing to take it out there, and something took that power, and you experience that trip now, and you are like, no, I care about myself. I changed my mind. I care about myself more than anything in the world. I'm never going to abandon
Exactly.
myself. I love myself. I'm so glad that I'm back to myself. This was like, okay,
Totally.
we learned that lesson, right?
Yeah, that's what happened. I mean, I like as much I was starting to kind of come back and feel a little bit normal. And I was like, I am so normal. I was so normal. Why did I ever, want to step out of this? Because I mean, basically, I think a part of it was because I was so hurt for being myself that I kind of wanted to, step out of myself in a way. And that opened me up to such an attack of another, entity or another part of me to come out in that destructive way because yeah, and I think that's like kind of the explanation that makes most sense to me, because being me, being the person I am, had got me to a place where I was so heartbroken in by so many things that happened to me. So I think they should be a resting stop. It's like I don't know how, but like I have no idea. Maybe other people have thought about it, but I just had to be not in a mental institution, not medicated maybe, but I had to find a resting spot where I was gonna be like, sad for a while and maybe didn't have to work or even socially interact with, people on the street, but like, in a very loving cocoon, like we need to be a place like that. And that's where maybe this could have been prevented, but who knows? That's my feeling. I feel like I should have done something. I mean, there's nothing that like that exists. Maybe an ashram. I don't know. I've never been, but you know what I mean?
This was your way of going to the ashram, right? To do the program with me in a way, in a different way. But that was it. And we talked about it, and I probably I mentioned quite at the beginning that this type of spiritual emergencies is like also like a rite of passage, like a big initiations, a big personal growth to people. And oftentimes if people receive the adequate support and guidance, can really turn it into, I wouldn't say positive experience, but something that they can see from a different perspective and say, this brought a lot of growth and a lot of gifts into my life, and I can see it that way from now. And at the beginning, you were like, I don't know about that, the gifts. So do you feel that you can glimpse on some of those gifts
Yeah,
by now, and how
yeah,
is that?
sure. For sure. No, I hated it. I hated every second of it in the beginning. And now I'm like, yeah, it's a good thing that I tend to forget the bad things, but not to the extent that I want to have the same experience again by, making the same mistakes. But the gifts are like so many. The empowerment, like I am fearless in a different way, if I can say. I was clueless before. Now it's more like I know my boundaries, like I know where I have to say no. I know I guess I know who I am much more now, and I can't give myself up like that. Like I know better than to give my power away in that way. And I know the kind of the price you might pay down the line if you give your price away. I had no idea. I had no idea anyone could, this could happen to anyone at any stage of their lives because like I said, I didn't have any kind of drastic issues before. So yeah, there's a lot of things that kind of I'd taken for granted before, and now I don't. And there's a lot of things that I was feeling feeling too much about. And now I'm like, I've turned that down a little bit, being mindful of my own energy and my intentions and thoughts too. Like, thoughts turn into your actions, and that's how kind of like the slippery slope. Now I have more respect for the mystery that is. Like, I think before I thought this was all figure outable, like we could understand everything. And I'm like, no, like there's a lot of mysteries. There's a lot of contracts that we've probably made, like we talked about coming here. And I kind of see it as an initiation, but I don't know as to what, and I don't have aspirations anymore of being the hero, the savior, the special
You are
person.
the hero already, my love. I mean, come on, this is the hero's journey. What are you talking about? You already did it. You already made it. We are all heroes in some way, I think, in our own
Yeah,
journey, right? And this was definitely, I would say, it's a triumph, over
yeah,
something
yeah.
like this, I just like so much respect for you, sister. And a lot of people say, and that's kind of my experience, is that the ayahuasca is called the medicine of love, and a lot to do with loving ourselves and connecting with this power. Do you relate to this at all, like after your experience in some weird way?
In some ways, yes, I can't really say like, oh, I'm so glad I did it. I can do it. I can't wait to do it again. Like, I can't say that, to be honest. I think I have like, I'm traumatized, and it would take me a lot to feel safe in a ceremony, I think. But now I know at least like the right way to do it. I can say that yes, it is the medicine of love, because whatever happened, however, sorry, difficult it was, I still am happy that I have found the strength and my way back into my own self. But that's also like, that could also be seen as naivete. It's like love and light, everything is so happy. And like, I think it's much more nuanced and deeper than that. Even if it's the medicine of love, I haven't really had a full
Right. I
experience
mean, I didn't
of that
mean the
yet.
experience in the ceremony because obviously you didn't have that experience. And that was, unfortunately, not necessarily that the medicine was not good, but that was contaminated the space, right? That where you were in. And unfortunately, that influenced your experience a lot. But more what I mean is like, do you experience right now, that you have more self-love, that you know yourself better, you love yourself, you care more about yourself, you prioritize yourself, you are
Right,
more conscious of your actions, your words. That's what I mean, as self,
right.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely in that sense, for sure. And I think, I mean, no one, like, some people have a trip and they have a ceremony, and then they come up with this beautiful ideas and change their life. And mine was not like, I think I was already on the, like, healing path, walking on the healing path. It took a completely dark turn and, like, thrust me over and over and over, and then took me on that path again. So I'm like, okay, that was my I guess self-love journey, and that's what I needed to happen. So what I'm saying is, I think it wasn't a 180, like, it took me to the same place, but with a deeper understanding and love of myself. And so that's, I mean, more like, I don't know if less or more dramatic, but it was drama, for me to last kind of a lifetime. Yeah, but yeah, whatever happens, like you said, it gives you a different sense of empowerment to come through something like this. And you can't not yourself, less, because yeah, it's just, it's good. But yeah, I'm just like cautious still a little.
Absolutely. And you should be, because before was like, yeah, whatever. And
Yeah.
now you are like, give me a second, let me think about that. And that's good,
Right,
that
right.
that's discernment, right? So, is there anything you would like to say to people right now? Just, whatever you would want to partake, any advice or realizations for people who are listening or who are planning, to have an experience or who had a challenging experience maybe with the medicine.
It's a process, and it's more not to scare anyone, but it's a serious thing to embark on this journey. It's not for the lighthearted. It's not a quick fix. That was one of the things that I really realized. We're always looking for a quick fix because life can be painful and we want to get rid of things. It's not like that. And it kind of reflects, I think, to you, however deep you want to go deep, and maybe I unintentionally went a little bit too deep than I should have. But yeah, just to have faith. And if you have a good shaman, a good community, a good therapist, someone, a guide, then it just makes the whole thing a lot easier. And I think I found it really hard to kind of give myself into this integration process, because what was happening to me was so unbelievable. But it doesn't have to be like that with everyone, and you can see the benefits of what this means, like going in, being prepared, going through a trip, however, it treats you there, and then coming out and there's still, someone there to take you to the other side of things. So I think, yeah, it's a really serious investment, let's say, in your own self. And I wish everyone the best of luck. And yeah, no, they should know that they can trust you and themselves along the way.
Thank you so much, sister, for sharing your very powerful, incredible story and hero's journey. And I'm so happy to be part of it, in a small way, you to walk with you to that other side. And I'm sure that it will keep unfolding your journey, and those gifts will keep manifesting in many various ways. So yeah, like we're gonna reconnect from in a time from now and see, like how your life is unfolding, because we always, also there's long-term consequences of things, right? Sometimes you don't see in the moment, what result this is gonna have. And, in retrospect, you are like, wow, it makes a lot of sense that I went
Right.
through steps, to get here. So I'm curious to see, how your journey is unfolding, and so grateful for you. And just, big shout out to people that you are able, you can turn around your life, you can change,
Yeah.
you can come back, you can heal, you can, find yourself. So this is all possible, even from very difficult, challenging scenarios. If you are committed to yourself, that's the one of the most, as Hande said, that it was difficult to be in the container, to come to the sessions, to do the exercises, and she had resistance, and but she did show up 100%, for herself, because she wanted, so much. And if you have the adequate support and guidance, that is also the other thing, because you don't know what's happening to you. How could you navigate something that you have no idea, and then you are scared because you don't know what's happening? So that's, it's you need that container, you need the guidance, you need the support. And this is important, that if you don't have that, then reach out and create and call in that support, because that's always available. And trust yourself in the process. Don't give up on yourself. That's one of the biggest red flag. Never give up on yourself, because if you give up on yourself, there's going to be something there that who's like, I would love to take control of that, thank you for offering, and that's the reality. Many people experience that, unfortunately. But you have a choice, we have a choice, and we have that power inside of us that is able to overcome this and come back from these dark places, as Hande shared with us that it is possible to make that journey, and then next time you're gonna look at that direction and say, no, thank you, I don't think I'm gonna go down that road again, and that's what we call protection for the future. That's real protection, is awareness, right? And
Right.
self-love, self-care, and definitely you made, big just improvements with all of that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, just have faith, like you said, believing in yourself takes you a long, long way. And yeah, I'm glad we're here. I'm glad we did this.
Sister, have a wonderful day, wonderful
You,
year, wonderful life.
you
And
too.
yeah, just leave a comment, tell us what you think. And yeah, just be safe, stay safe on your journey, educate yourself, reach out if you need support. And lots of love to you all until we meet again. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening, and leave a comment if you enjoyed this episode. Help us grow our community by sharing this episode with your friends and subscribe to our channel to receive the latest on ayahuasca-assisted therapy. To embark on your healing journey or to start a new career in psychedelic-assisted therapy, go to my website, avatarhealingarts.com, and get in touch. And of course, stay tuned for the next episode.